What is up, my buttery biscuits? In today's video, we're going to be talking about the rise and the fall of Morphe. I feel like this video I did not see coming. However, I do feel like it is very necessary. I do want to say I made one mistake before even getting into this video. I drank almost a whole entire energy drink, and it's a big daddy one. And I do apologize if I am a little bit scatterbrained. You guys know what I have energy drinks. On top of that, too, I had coffee as well this morning. So whenever I have energy drinks, I'm kind of like a little bit all over the place. I do apologize. But y'all, I literally like wrote a whole entire script about this. I went through the whole entire history of Morphe because I thought it would be really interesting to talk about. So that's what we're going to be talking about within today's video. Make sure you guys click the link down below to head over to my second channel. That's my travel channel with my brother, and I would really appreciate the subscribe over there. Y'all, I got new videos there every single Sunday. Before we get into today's video, we actually have a sponsor, so let's go ahead and jump into that. Today's video is sponsored by Audible. I'm sure you've already heard of Audible, but just in case you haven't, let me tell you about them. Audible is the home of storytelling. They offer an incredible selection of audiobooks of all different types of genres, from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs to mysteries to thrillers to wellness and motivation. And speaking of motivation, recently I've been into the title You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. Y'all, for the longest time I was pronouncing her name Jen Sincero. I was telling all my friends, you need to check out this book by Jen Sincero, and it's Sincero. Anyways, if you guys struggle with self-doubt, this book is literally made for you. It's literally changing my mind all around, because for years I'm telling myself, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that and I shouldn't try this and I shouldn't try that. This book is literally changing the way that I think, and it sucks that I've actually heard of this book years ago, but I've told you guys before, me and reading just don't get along. For some reason, whenever I go to sit down and read a book, it goes into my brain and out through my brain, and I just don't retain any of the information. But actually being able to listen to the book on Audible, I feel like I retain all the information, and on top of that too, it gets me wanting to listen to it more and more. This book just has you feeling like you can achieve anything that you put your mind to. And y'all, when I start to doubt myself now, I think of quotes from the book. Y'all, chapter 17 just alone, just the title, I literally want to get it tattooed on my body. It's titled, It's So Easy Once You Figure Out It Isn't Hard. And I feel like this resonates with me so much, because every single time that I'm telling myself like, oh my gosh, this is like way too hard to do, and like don't even try that, like no, you're just gonna fail at it anyways, I start thinking, no, it's actually easy. And as soon as I start telling myself that it's easy, it really is easy. I like over stress and overthink way too much, and this book has me like slowing down, and I'm just like, y'all, it is literally changing my life around. Not to even sound corny, but it really is. Also, Audible offers an array of podcasts. Y'all, they literally have every type of podcast on there that you can imagine. Recently I've been catching up on all my Bailey Sarian, Shane Dawson, and Full Coverage podcasts, and their app makes it so easy that you can literally listen wherever. If you want to listen to it in your car, at home, in the shower. I really do love to listen to my podcast in the shower, but I will say this, I got a little spooked out because I was catching up on my Bailey Sarian podcast, and I was listening to her John Wayne Gacy series. I got so much soap in my eyes because I was like, oh my gosh, if I close my eyes, John Wayne Gacy is going to be on the other side of the curtain. So it kind of spooked me out a little bit. So now I'm like, whenever I'm in the shower, I just listen to Full Coverage, which is the podcast by Manny MUA and Laura Lee. I'm like, let me listen to something lighthearted, because y'all know how it is. If you close your eyes in the shower, like something's going to pop up. And I feel like listening to Bailey Sarian in the shower, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting a little spooked out. What makes Audible so valuable is they are constantly updating their library, which you will have unlimited access to, and you can listen to as many times as you want. And as an Audible member, you can select one title per month from the entire catalog to keep, and that does include bestsellers and new releases. They also have an incredible sleep time selection. I told you guys before that I have tinnitus, so I have a constant ringing in my ears literally at all times. So I struggle going to sleep, and using their sleep section has really been helping me out. This is really gonna trip you guys out, but I've been listening to the Diddy sleep time episode, and y'all, I never thought before that Diddy had a soothing voice, and I'm like, Diddy is really putting me to sleep. They also have one of Nick Jonas. I actually recently just added that to my library, but I haven't listened to it just yet. But I'm definitely going to get into it because y'all know I love me some Nick Jonas. Let Audible help you discover new ways to laugh, be inspired, or be entertained. And new members can try Audible for free for 30 days. All you have to do is head over to audible.com/Skelotim or text Skelotim to 500-500, and you can try Audible for free for 30 days. A huge thank you to Audible for sponsoring this video. Now let's go ahead and get into it. Now getting into this Morphe deep dive, y'all, I do apologize if I'm looking down at my phone a lot throughout this video. However, I have so many notes. When I was doing my research for this video, I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that, and I forgot about that, and I forgot about that. There's just so many things. So I'm going to be referring back to my notes throughout this video because there is just so much, y'all. And on top of that too, this is dated all the way back from 2008. So let's go ahead and dive right on into it. Just in case you guys didn't know, Morphe was actually started by Linda and Chris Talley. I hope that's how you pronounce their last name. They are brother and sister. I actually got this information wrong about a year ago, and everyone was like all grilling me because I said husband and wife. I don't know why, for some reason I thought it was husband and wife, but it is brother and sister, and they actually started in 2008. I did not know that. I for some reason thought that they started later, but they have been in business for quite some time. They actually originally started off by going to trade shows and selling their brushes. Y'all, this is actually how I first discovered them. I was in IMATS, I believe, or the Makeup Show LA, one of the two, and I saw their brushes, and their price points compared to what's at these shows was seriously so amazing, especially during that time. I want to say I was probably like 22, 23. And I was like, yo, their brushes were like $2, $3, and they were offering incredible deals at these makeup shows. As to where, say, for example, brands like Anastasia Beverly Hills or KVD was super popular at the time. They were only offering like 10% off of their products. And I was like, okay, no, like that's really not that big of a discount. You can get a bigger discount at Sephora. So I gravitated towards Morphe. I feel like not only were they affordable, but then also at the shows, they were like super affordable. Like if you bought like, I think it was like buy like 3 brushes, get 2 free, something like that. Or like they had like 30% off. It was just really amazing deals. And I feel like a lot of people during this time were really praising about Sigma online. However, Sigma to me was just a little bit out of budget. And I feel like Morphe was actually really affordable. Anyways, this is actually where they got their name Morphe brushes, which obviously everybody knows them now as just Morphe, but they did actually change their name. It was originally Morphe brushes, and even on their 35 pan eyeshadow palettes, it stated Morphe brushes on top of it. I want to say actually when I was getting into their palettes, I was like, you know what? I kind of don't like this because why does an eyeshadow palette say Morphe brushes on it? It just doesn't go. So obviously that's why they dropped the brushes name on it. So anyways, y'all, they actually, look, this is the one thing that I really wanted to talk about because I see a lot of people talking about with Morphe like, oh, they did the game wrong. They did this wrong. I'm like, y'all, in my opinion, this is obviously just my opinion. I really do feel like they played the game right because when everything was on and popping with social media, they got with the trends. You guys know that I worked for MAC for almost 8 years, and I feel like for the longest period of time, MAC was really struggling to get onto social media. I feel like they felt like they were too like better than, you know what I mean? They weren't getting onto social media as to where Morphe was actually started on social media. They played the game smart and they started working with all different types of influencers to give them a code. I do want to say during this time, Sigma also had a code program too, but like I had mentioned before, their brushes were just a little bit more expensive than Morphe. So being that Morphe was affordable and then they offered a discount code on top of it, it just made it so much easier to purchase their products, being that they were affordable, and then you could still even save some extra money on top of that. Morphe gained so much success during this time. In 2013, they actually opened their first brick and mortar store location. This was in Burbank, California, and y'all, before they were even like popular, I remember going to the store and you would go inside the store and you would see influencers and it would be like, say for example, like Jaclyn Hill didn't have a collaboration with them, but it'll be like Jaclyn Hill's favorites, Manny MUA's favorite, Laura Lee's favorites, and it'll just have all of their products. And I want to say this, during this time, I thought this was iconic. And on top of this too, I also felt like it gave me a sense of hope. Like me as an influencer, I was like, oh my gosh, y'all, one day I hope that they have a section of my favorites on the wall. I just felt like it was so cool. And it gave all of us in social media kind of like something to look forward to and something to like dream at. Do you know what I mean? As to where, say for example, when you go to Sephora or Ulta, it did not have influencers on their billboards or anything like that. It was all celebrities, you know, especially at MAC, they were working with like Rihanna and Madonna and like huge names, you know what I mean? So being that Morphe was obviously way more influencer driven, it gave people like me hope, you know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh, I could really do this. So I remember going to their store and it was just so cool to be able to see that. And that's another thing that I want to say, and I want to give them credit from when they first started off. This was an amazing idea. Being that you can go into the store and you see your favorite influencers section, you could be like, oh my God, Manny MUA loves this brush. Let me get this one. Oh my God, Jaclyn Hill loves this brush. Let me get that one. It's just so perfect. And I don't know why other brands did not get on trend with it. I feel like they're still not really on trend with that. And y'all, let's keep it real. I feel like influencers sell way more makeup than celebrities do because you actually have a connection with somebody online. You build a trust with them. You know what I mean? Say, for example, if I'm watching Manny MUA and I'm like, you know what? I really trust him. I trust his recommendation. Also, I like his style of makeup. When I see his brushes or his eyeshadows, I'm going to want to get them because I know that he uses those products within the video. As to where celebrities, they just endorse things and they don't actually use them on video. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I want to say, I feel like Morphe really played the game right. It is kind of sad what happened to them in the end, but they made a mistake, I guess. Anyway, so as the store was growing and booming, they actually started working with Jaclyn Hill. In 2014, 2015, this is when Jaclyn Hill came out with what you can title her first collaboration with Morphe, but it wasn't necessarily a collaboration as to where she's coming out with her own custom packaging and everything. This palette right here was actually just titled Jaclyn's Favorites. And basically what it was is a 28 pan eyeshadow palette from Jaclyn Hill that was her favorite eyeshadows for a discounted price. Because if you guys did not know, during this time at Morphe, when you head over to a Morphe store, they actually had a whole bunch of single individual eyeshadows. This is another thing that I wanted to mention for upcoming like freelance makeup artist or like influencers, their eyeshadows were so affordable. I want to say they were probably about $2 at the time to get the individuals, and then you could get like a Z palette and just build your own palette. It was super affordable. But this is actually when Jaclyn Hill came out with her first collaboration. As you guys can see from these pictures right here, it was just titled Jaclyn's Favorites. I guess this did so good, it sold out apparently. But on top of that too, I want to say I feel like it sold out because a lot of people knew their individual prices and they knew that you can get this for a discounted price. And then on top of that too, of course, because Jaclyn Hill's name was on it. So Morphe saw such success in this, they wanted to continue on doing collaborations with influencers. They moved on to do collaborations with Manny MUA, Nikita Dragon, Jeffree Star. But I want to say, in my personal opinion, you guys can, you know, obviously have a different opinion than me. I want to say that Jaclyn Hill was their bread and butter. I know it's been said time and time again that James Charles palette was like one of the most sold palettes ever, but I want to say they continuously done business with Jaclyn Hill, and I feel like she was the very first influencer to really put them on the map. I feel like because of Jaclyn Hill, then other influencers like Nikki Tutorials and many MUA started using them. I feel like she was the very first one to put them on the map, and I want to say she probably made them the most money. Maybe James Charles sold like the most palettes, but I want to say they probably made the most money from Jaclyn Hill because in 2017 they actually came out with their Morphe times Jaclyn Hill palette, which was said to be at that time their most successful palette. Now obviously I do wish this was public record. You guys know that I'm always talking about when it comes down to sales and like hearing James Charles say, oh, my palette was the highest sold palette of all time at Morphe. Well, during this time Morphe actually said the Morphe times Jaclyn Hill palette was their highest selling palette. So I really do want to know what the numbers were like, but then I also do want to say James Charles came to be way more popular than Jaclyn Hill. But no matter what though, Jaclyn Hill has like a die-hard fan base. You guys know that I really feel like she can come out with like repackaged Arrowhead and sell it for $15 each and people are going to buy it. They just eat up whatever Jaclyn Hill is selling. I really don't know why, but I do want to say her palette that she came out with in 2017 I thought was an actually like beautiful palette. And then also one key thing to note during this time, because this is when we're going to get into the whole drama of it all, is that during this time it was said that Jaclyn Hill actually created this custom formula with Morphe. So this wasn't Morphe's initial same formula as to where all their other eyeshadow palettes were and all their individual shadows were. This was a custom formula created by Jaclyn Hill. And this is where things get really tricky, and pay attention to this because as we move down the line, the timeline here, you guys will see that came out to be false. Moving on with Jaclyn Hill, also in 2017 they came out with the Vault collection. Y'all, this is probably one of the beginnings of like the biggest drama of Morphe. You guys know drama channels were on and popping during this time, and y'all, this information to me like shook me, and a lot of people really lost their trust in Morphe and Jaclyn Hill during this time because of this. In case you guys do not remember, they came out with 4 10-pan eyeshadow palettes, and influencers actually got all of these palettes in PR first, and thank God to influencers. This is exactly why I'm like, you know what, I'm sorry, but my trust is always within influencers, is because they actually said, you know what, these are not blending well, these are patchy, these are separated, this feels way more dry and not buttery like the original formulas. And it actually came out that there was issues with the whole collection, and Morphe came out and made a full statement, and this is what they said right here. Morphe is 100% committed to giving our hashtag Morphe babes high quality products that we're proud to use. With the help of our loyal community, we found that some of the shades in the Morphe times Jaclyn Hill, the Vault palettes, did not meet our standards due to inconsistent production. So our team and Jaclyn have made the decision to delay the official launch. We will let you know the new launch date as soon as possible. Thank you so much for your love and support, hashtag Morphe babes. Now, during this time, this was in 2017. This was supposed to come out, I want to say in June or July of 2017. The whole reason why everybody was questioning this is because supposedly they reformulated all of their palettes and then came out with them in August, and everyone was like, wait, what? How did you do that so fast? So a lot of people were really believing that they just came out with these palettes and said that they did that, even though they didn't really. Obviously, we'll never know the truth to that, but a lot of people did come out and say this Vault collection was not so good as the original formula. Also during this time, Jaclyn Hill came out and she sold the whole bit by saying, Morphe is going to lose millions of dollars, and this is why I work with them. I don't know any other big brand that would do this. But once again, like I had mentioned, the fact that they came out with it a month later, it's just kind of like, what? And I've said this before, I've worked in labs before, I've worked with chemists before, and y'all, my turnaround time at my lab at the very least was 8 weeks. And it's so ironic that if you guys don't remember watching the whole Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star series, their turnaround time was also 8 weeks too. So everyone was like, how did they get this so fast? Like, it just doesn't really make sense that it literally came a month later. But anyways, people still bought it, of course. A lot of people did like the color stories. I will be honest, myself included. I looked at the color stories of those and I was like, wow, these palettes actually really do look beautiful. I think that we can all say this, you know, people have a lot of opinions about Jaclyn Hill, but I think that she comes up with beautiful color stories. Like her first palette, her second palette, the Vault, like they're super, super beautiful. Anyways, in 2020, y'all, Morphe and Jaclyn Hill decided to come out with yet again another eyeshadow palette. I am going to be backtracking just a little bit. However, I want to talk about Jaclyn because obviously she does play a huge role in Morphe. So I'm going to be talking about 2020, but then I'm going to backtrack just a little bit because I do think this is important to stay on topic with Jaclyn so that way we're not going back and forth with Jaclyn. Anyways, she came out with her second palette with Morphe. This was titled the Morphe 2 palette. It was another 35 pan eyeshadow palette for $39. Now, this is where everyone completely lost it because there are a lot of diehard vegans out there who only use vegan formulated products or only eat vegan food, you know, and whatnot. And this is really messed up because she said within her video, you guys can obviously go back to her channel. You guys can see this little clip right here. She said within her video that this is the same exact formula that everyone loved, and that was a vegan formula. It also came out that people read the back of the package and were like, wait, no, this is no longer vegan. Your original formula was vegan. What happened to this? Obviously, this is where everybody completely lost trust within Morphe and Jaclyn. And I think that that really sucks because this is something, say for example, if you trust in an influencer, if you trust in anybody really, and you're like, you know what, I bought this palette the first time because it was vegan and I use only vegan products. And then you're like, oh, okay, you hear this is the same formula as before. You're going to pick it up without even questioning it. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously the first one was vegan. You already know that. And then you pick up the second one and then you see the back of the label to see it is no longer vegan. So during this time, Morphe actually put out this statement right here. I do apologize, this is a little blurry, but this is the only picture that I could find of this. It said, we have seen several concerns about our original Morphe times Jaclyn Hill palette formula modifications and ingredient changes and want to set the record straight. We also wanted to be clear these formula improvements are out of our collaborators' control. Jaclyn was not made aware of the specific ingredient adjustments to her palette and was told only that we worked to improve the performance and payoff. While it is common in the beauty industry to make formula adjustments and improvements to keep up with industry standards, it is not customary to announce them. The ingredients in our products are always posted on our website. However, we hear our customers' requests for more clarity and promise to work to increase transparency in any formula modifications for the benefit of our customers. Morphe. I do want to say this. I totally do agree with them where they say that it is not customary for a brand to get out there and say that a formula has changed. However, when you're changing it from vegan to non-vegan, that is a huge no-no. That is something that you need to announce. And I don't understand how they would even get out there. Low-key, it comes across as gaslighting in my personal opinion, because it's like, oh yeah, we're not supposed to say it, but it's like you're changing the formula from vegan to non-vegan. That's really, really big, especially this day and age. A lot of people really try to like do what's right and go by vegan formulas, especially being that it is so easy to create vegan formulated products these days. You can pretty much come up with every single color. I feel like reds are the only colors that is difficult to make vegan, but even then you could still come up with it. So that's why I'm like, I feel like they were just kind of like double down there. And it's like, no, you guys should have announced that if it's going from vegan to non-vegan. Also, I do want to say that Morphe, Jaclyn Hill said during this time that she had no idea that Morphe was doing this. I find this so difficult to believe, y'all, because I feel like if I was coming out with collaborations, I would literally look at the formula, maybe only because I'm interested in seeing the formulas of stuff that I would look at it, but it's on the back of your package. That's your custom box that you're coming out with. Like, I feel like you would notice the difference in the ingredients, right? Am I tripping? Now we're going to be backpedaling just a little bit back to 2018 because we're going to be talking about James Charles. This is actually where they collaborated with James Charles and came out with the famous James Charles Artistry palette. This was actually so popular that they came out with a mini, and I do want to say, in my personal opinion, I never picked up this palette myself, but several of my friends picked it up, and I want to say this palette was actually very, very beautiful. I feel like this is your like perfect type of palette that you need to take with you to travel, and that's why I feel like it was a very smart business move for them to come out with a mini, because I feel like this is like the perfect palette that I would take with me to like Vegas. You have all your crazy colors in there, you have your neutrals, you know what I mean? Like, it's just an all-around good color story, and I feel like it's just super, it has everything that you need basically, you know. So I feel like they played their cards right. But this was supposedly, y'all, like, and this is why I say I wish this was, I wish that these were public records that I can actually see, because this was supposedly their highest selling palette, outbeating Jaclyn Hill. But I do want to say I feel like Jaclyn Hill probably sold way more units, because not only did she come out with so many different palettes with Morphe, but then she also came out with brushes as well too. She had several collaborations with Morphe. And then we're fast forwarding to 2019 right here, because this is where it was said that Morphe was worth an estimated $2 billion. And this is where Linda and Chris actually sold the majority of their stakes to Forma Brands or General Atlantic. It's like, it's a weird little umbrella that they got going on right here. Basically what it is like General Atlantic is kind of like the Estee Lauder, and then underneath it is all the umbrella companies. And I feel like General Atlantic obviously purchased this and then came out with Forma Brands, and Forma Brands trickled down into like Rem Beauty and Jaclyn Cosmetics and Morphe and Morphe 2, things like that. So kind of picture it kind of like an Estee Lauder. I think that's what they were trying to go for. However, none of this information was made public. I have done my research up and down because I really wanted to know what was the majority of their stakes in the company. What was that worth? I wanted to know the millions and millions of dollars that they made. However, there is no public information of this, and I really wish that there was. But anyways, also in 2019 they actually came out with the Jeffree Star collection, which I'm sure you guys know that I bought and reviewed on my channel, and this I was super disappointed in. You guys know that I absolutely love the Jeffree Star formula, Jeffree Star's cosmetics formula. I feel like it's really, really great. However, the Morphe one to me was just, oh, it was patchy, it was separated, it was bad. I was like, you know what, like, this is just not good. Like, I obviously picked it up just to do a review of it, but I didn't really like it. Anyways, I don't think that palette was super popular though, because everyone was noticing there was stacks and stacks of them still stocked up. And on top of that too, at my local Morphe store, y'all, I saw one of the employees open up the door. And I was like, oh my gosh, they are stacked on it. As to where James Charles actually sold out, Jaclyn sold out, and Jeffree Star's was still there. I don't know if they ordered just like so much product so that the way they wouldn't sell out. I don't know, but I don't think it did as good as Jaclyn and James. Anyways, y'all, this goes into July of 2020. I'm sure you guys remember this. Morphe came out and made the statement: today we've made the decision to cease all commercial activity related to Jeffree Star and affiliated products. We expect this to conclude within the coming weeks. As we look to the future, we will continue to share updates on what lies ahead for the Morphe brand. This was a little bit trippy, y'all, because everyone was like, what? After the Shane and Jeffree series, everyone was like, okay, we all know now that Morphe is Jeffree Star's biggest buyer, meaning that they bought the most units from Jeffree Star Cosmetics and sold them inside their stores. And I showed you guys this before. When I would do my Jeffree Star reviews on my channel, I would always go to my Morphe store to pick it up. And while I'm there, I would pick up something else. Do you know what I mean? I feel like this was creating a lot of business for them, being that Jeffree Star was so famous and so popular, and he was coming out with some really massive collections. I feel like this is like really where things started to hit them bad, is dropping Jeffree Star during this time. Now we're getting into the James Charles, y'all. In 2021, just a year later, they came out with the statement saying, in light of recent allegations against James Charles, Morphe and James have agreed to end our business relationship and wind down sales of the Morphe times James Charles product offering. It is and always has been Morphe's goal to create a positive, safe, and empowering space where all beauty lovers can freely share their artistry and passion for cosmetics, and Morphe is committed to furthering that goal. Now during this time, we are now seeing that they are not working with so many influencers, y'all. Also, I forgot to mention too that they did drop Laura Lee because some old tweets of hers had surfaced. I was trying to dig into that information. For some reason I could not find it, but they ended up dropping her because of that. And I want to say it's little things like that. Like, I feel like what came out with James and what came out with Jeffree, they were like big things, and it happened multiple times. And to my recollection, I could be wrong about this because like I said, I couldn't find any information about this. What happened with Laura Lee was a one-time thing. I don't know if you guys remember her infamous apology video where she was crying, but she wasn't really crying. It was like crocodile tears. This to me was like, okay, it was a one-time thing. She said a dumb thing that she shouldn't have said, and it's like, y'all, we all have a past. We all have made mistakes. We've all done some wrong things. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like right there, they should have not dropped her. Like, it's just kind of like, I don't know. I feel like it was kind of feeding into cancel culture. Do you know what I mean? As to where when it was with James and Jeffree, like, those were big things and it happened multiple times. So that I understood a little bit more, you know? So at this time, picture. Okay, this is where all of these influencers are still really famous on social media. They dropped Laura Lee, Manny MUA, Jeffree Star, and James Charles. I don't know if they dropped Manny MUA or Manny MUA stopped selling his products there. Also couldn't find any information about that, but I know that he was no longer really affiliated with Morphe. So that was pretty much all the biggest names in the beauty industry right there. I feel like Nikki Tutorials was probably the only person that was still promoting them. But this is why I say I feel like Nikki Tutorials, like, y'all, she really deserves a lot of praise because she just stays out of all the drama. She's just in her own like Netherland region over there, and she's just like, you know what, I'm just doing my makeup and that is it. Anyways, y'all, so this is where we lead to now the sad part of Morphe. You know, okay, I say the sad part. I know so many people are like, oh, well, karma, you know, you get what you get and that's just what it is. I feel bad because so many people have lost their jobs. And on top of that, too, I feel like so many people are going to lose their jobs. And just all of this information coming out, it's just, I don't know, it's really sad. You know, to me, I do feel like Morphe did play their cards wrong. And I do always question, like, I wonder if they would have stuck through with James Charles and Jeffree, if they would have still been in business. Obviously, we'll never know, but this is where they came out with their tweet of stating that they're going to be closing all stores in the United States. This is what they said right here. We have made the difficult decision to close all Morphe stores in the US. We are forever grateful to our store teams for their passion, talent, and dedication over the years. Customers can continue to shop Morphe online and select retailers. Morphe stores outside the US will remain open. I want to say this before getting into my final thoughts. I think that they actually played their cards wrong when it came down to stores. Obviously, because we all know now a lot of people just are fascinated with Amazon. Everyone orders everything off of Amazon. They want that like click, ship to home, and don't have to leave their house. And I feel like they should have played it a little bit more smart because, y'all, they opened up hundreds of stores immediately. I don't know if you guys remember the brand Kiko Milano. Same thing with them. They opened up so many stores and they had to shut down literally within 1 year. I remember working at MAC during this time, and I was actually freelancing for MAC, so I would go around to different locations and I'm like, oh my gosh, Kiko Milano literally has a location at every single MAC. How can they afford to do this? They're popular in like Italy, but like in America we didn't really know about them too much, so how are they opening up all these locations and then literally a year later they're closing all of their locations? I feel like Morphe did the same thing too. They were trying to get onto MAC's level, but I feel like obviously MAC has been established for so long, it's going to take a while to get up there, and I feel like they jumped the gun and opened up way too many stores way too fast, and that's obviously just my opinion. But to get into my final thoughts about everything, I really do feel like this is unfortunate. I feel like obviously Morphe has played such a huge role in the beauty industry and within the beauty community, and I do feel like they gave a lot of beauty influencers a dream to look forward to. I don't see any other brands working with influencers the way that Morphe has. I've always said time and time again, I wish that MAC would. However, they really just dropped the ball with this, and I don't feel like I still feel like they have that little bit of a better than mentality. Do you know what I mean? They came out with a collection with 4 collections actually with Patrick Starr that did super successful. I was still working at MAC at the time, and I just never really understood why they didn't come out with more collections with influencers, especially if they were successful. I literally saw them sell out. Like, they sold out of those Patrick Starr collections, so I'm like, I don't understand why they don't continue to do that. But nonetheless, we will see if Morphe continues to stay in business. As of right now, they are sold online and at Ulta's, but honestly, I don't really see too much buzz around them. Maybe all of this talk will get people to shop more, but now we see that there's a lot more ethical brands out there that are also affordable, so I don't know about that. But make sure you guys let me know your thoughts and opinions about everything, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Peace out, Girl Scout.